Alrighty, thank y'all for coming again to my speech. My name is Jessica. Today what we're going to be talking about, the fact that over the recent years, there has been an increasing trend in the United States that's recently been classified as an epidemic for the United States. And what that epidemic is drug addiction. So what we're going to talk about is that one of the leading causes of drug addiction in the United States is caused by prescription drugs. People don't believe that, but I'm going to show and talk about some facts today that are going to show that prescription drugs are the cause for drug addiction in the United States today. In order to talk about drug addiction, we kind of have to talk about what is a drug addiction. According to the CDC, drug addiction is the abuse of a drug, whether it be legal or illegal drug, for physical and psychological reasons. Some people use it because they've used it for so long that if they aren't using the drug anymore, they're going to go through withdrawal symptoms. Some people use it psychologically because they are convinced that without it, they can't function. Some people use it because they feel like it's their safe zone. This is how I keep myself from remembering bad things or things that I don't want to think about, things that I don't want running through my brain right now. On drugrehab.com, you can go and you can get the commonly used prescription drugs that are used by drug addicts. What you're going to see is the main drug that drug addicts use are opiates. Those are oxycodone, hydrocodone, Vicodin, things like that. You're going to see central nervous system depressants. Those are your Xanax, your Valium. People call them a downer. It takes them down, they mellow out, they kind of don't realize what's going on. Another one that's become a recent addition to drug abusers is stimulants. Those are typically drugs that are used for your ADHD children or your mental health patients with schizophrenia and things like that. A common one is Adderall. In an ADHD child, it's going to kind of settle them down. It's going to have the opposite effect on somebody that doesn't have that condition that's going to use that drug. Now we're going to get into some really big statistics that are going to prove that prescription drugs are a cause of drug abuse and drug addiction in the United States. What you're going to see is that in the past 2 decades, since 1999, the amount of prescription drugs in the United States has quadrupled. But the pain rating for patients has remained consistent and unchanged. The average pain rating for a patient in the United States is 3 to 7. That's minimal to moderate pain. But yet the prescriptions have gone up 4 times higher than what they were in 99. There's no justification behind that. If you don't have a change in a pain rating and you're rating your pain as a 3, then how do you justify an increase by 4 times of the prescription drugs that are being handed out to patients in the United States? On average, 130 people every day overdose on an opioid. That's a hydrocodone. That's an oxycodone. 130 people a day. You think about that and you think, that's a small number. That's a really large number for a daily statistic for people. Another one that you're going to see, 2017, 68% of the drug overdoses in the United States were caused by opioids. That's not a small number either. In 1999, that number was closer to the 30 to 40% range. That's a big increase of people overdosing on drugs. To get an opioid, you or the person that you're buying it from has to have a legal prescription for it in order for you to get it. They don't just hand hydrocodone out at Walgreens when you walk in the door. It's not a fact. Somebody in that chain has a legal prescription for that medication. 6.1 million people every month abuse prescription drugs. That's 6.1 people that somehow got their hands on a legal prescription drug. They may have gotten it illegally, but somebody got it legally from a physician. That's a big number. What you're also going to see is that 18 to 25-year-olds, 14% say that they have used a prescription drug for a non-medical reason. They use it to get high. When you use an opioid for a reason it's not prescribed for, that leads to the drug addiction because then you become dependent on that drug to keep going and to keep functioning, to get that high that you got the first time. And the next time, guess what? You need a higher dose. And then you need another higher dose because your body becomes what they call resistant to the amount that you're already receiving. You're also going to see that in 2010, there were 17,000 accidental prescription drug overdoses. That may have been somebody not intending, or somebody that took their next higher dose of a legal drug and they overdosed, not intending to. That's kind of a scary statistic when you look at that. How do you balance that out? How do you balance out a legal prescription causing that much harm to people in the United States? That could be your neighbor. That could be your best friend. That could be your brother that's doing that, and they're getting some of these prescriptions legally, even if they obtain it illegally afterwards. Somebody got it legally. So prescription drugs are definitely a leading cause for the drug addiction that the U.S. is facing right now. What you're going to see that's even a more alarming statistic is that a lot of people start off with a legal prescription for a narcotic. And then, you know what they turn to? Oh, they can't get that hydrocodone anymore. They can't get that oxycodone, or it's too expensive. So then they turn to heroin. A person who is legally or been prescribed an opiate is 40 times more likely to use heroin than the average person in the U.S. That's an alarming statistic. So they get those drugs, and then they have to turn to something else because they can no longer maintain without it. Heroin addiction increased from 2006 to 2012 from 90,000 to 156,000 people. That's a big number too. What you're going to see that has become a new trend, and you hear it a lot now, is fentanyl. In the late 90s and the early 2000s, pharmaceutical companies began to formulate new drugs to keep up with the demand for the prescription. That's when they came up with their fentanyl. That's when they came up with Duragesic patches and things like that. All of these statistics prove to you that prescription drugs cause drug addiction in the United States. There's no way around it. The more that prescription drugs are handed out, the more likely somebody is to become a drug addict and abuse that drug for a purpose that it was never, ever intended to be used for. All right. Any questions? Anybody have any questions for me? All right. Thank y'all very much.